I just wrote a little something this morning. And bear with me, just in case I have a tough time. I had a tough time writing it, so I assume it'll be kind of tough talking about it. So, I'm Matt Kukankos. Joe and I have been best friends for as long as I can remember. We've gone together, we've gone to school together since first grade, all the way up to roommates in college freshman year. I know it's usually normal to tell a fun story about something Joe did, but I thought it appropriate to tell one of Joe's favorite stories about something I did. I think you know where I'm going. This story has been told 5,000 times, and I feel it represents who Joe is and shows the importance of friendship to him. I need to preface this story by telling everyone that Joe always had the coolest toys when we were kids, be it Michael Jordan signed basketballs, cool glowing Luminox watches, Swiss Army knives, a sweet mongoose bike, and even fluorescent yellow spandex shorts. For you that know Joe, you know those spandex shorts. That being said, we continue on with the story. This story is titled, How Far Can You Bend a Fishing Pole Before It Breaks? In fourth grade, Joe and I were inseparable. We lived 7 blocks away from each other, and we're together at one of our houses every day of summer break. Throughout summer break, Joe would always have some new gadget or toy he would bring over to show me. Now, I don't want people to think Joe was spoiled. Although Mr. Bernat did get Joe some sweet things, Joe bought a good deal of his own toys with his own money from a lawn mowing business he started by banging on doors in the neighborhood. Joe was a very likable and convincing salesman from a young age. In fourth grade, Joe was really getting into fishing with his dad and brought over a new Shimano graphite fishing pole. He told me it was one of the best fishing poles because it was very lightweight, but also very strong. This was good because if you caught a big fish, the pole would bend, but not break. This led me to ask Joe, how far do you think it can bend before it breaks? Joe responded, I do not want to find out. So naturally, the first thing I did when Joe walked away was put the pole to a test. It actually bent much further than I expected before it broke. After I broke it, I knew I was in trouble. So I did what any kid would do, make it look like it was put back together so when someone else picked it up, they would think they broke it. So I rigged the broken pole up and left for soccer practice. When I got home, I was busted. My mom knew about the fishing pole and informed me Joe's parents knew as well. I felt horrible. Joe was never going to be my friend after this. My parents informed me that I would have to buy Joe a new fishing pole, I'd be grounded for a day or two, and have to call Joe to apologize. I could deal with the first two, but I was dreading this phone call. I tentatively dialed Joe's number and started crying, kind of like this. Mr. Bernat answered, and I said I was very sorry. He was very nice and said it was okay, and then he handed the phone over to Joe. I knew Joe was going to hate me, and I was just going to have to deal with it. But something I did not expect occurred. When I heard Mr. Bernat hand the phone over to Joe,
It's okay, man.
I just need to take a second here. He was also crying. I stuttered and I said, I'm sorry for breaking your fishing pole. And Joe, also crying, said, we're still friends, right? Sorry, guys. This says everything about Joe. He could care less about his fishing pole being broken. All Joe cared about that day was our friendship. That day, Joe was more concerned with how bad I felt, more concerned about getting past this and going back to being friends and having fun. I think everyone here can agree that Joe's the best friend any of us could ask for. About 5 months ago, Joe told this story at the rehearsal dinner for my wedding. He finished it by saying, throughout my life, Matt has always had my back, and I will always have his. I realize Joe is gone, but he will always live inside of me. And for the rest of my life, Joe will always have my back. Thanks.
I'm probably going to speak for a lot of guys that don't know I'm speaking for them right now. I'll try to speak slow, but it's a little different when you're talking at a computer screen. My name is Brian Silver, and I met Joe B., as we all know him, in 1999 when we were pledge brothers in ATO at SIU. Because we all knew Joe, we always knew the type of guy that he was, which was the guy to light up the room the second he walked into it, and he touched everybody's heart. I think that is evidenced by the tremendous generosity of many friends and family who has, in 3 days, donated over $13,000 to the online campaign to raise money in Joe's memory. Much of this money even came from many of our college friends who at one time in our lives thought buying a 25-cent draft at the bar was too expensive, but now would be willing to shell out any amount of money to help a friend and his family in need. What do I talk about when it comes to someone that is in almost every good memory of all my years at college and beyond? Thinking of all these memories, the easiest thing for me to do is tell you how Joe made me and all my friends feel. Joe was a teddy bear to all of us. And I don't say he was a teddy bear because he truly was as big as a bear, which he was, but because he truly was the biggest cuddle buddy to us all. He had special things that he did with each of us, whether it was the way he rested his head or his elbow on my head when he stood next to me, the little pinky wave that he would do to another one of our friends to show the softer side he had, or even the crazy handshakes that him and Ronnie would display, often in large crowds that would end up to the two of them breakdancing around in a crowd of laughing and cheering friends. What Joe did to all of us was make us feel special. As a freshman in college, I didn't have my own car, but Joe had his Audi and drove us all around in the pledge class. And while we all promised Joe we would never tell what really happened in that car, I don't want to go against my promise to Joe, but Mr. Bernat, you should know that what you have heard may not be the complete story. Throughout college, I got to live with Joe in the fraternity house where the average bedtime was 3 a.m. Oftentimes, just a few of us good students would stay up late studying and hanging out. We would laugh, share stories, complain about some stupid sorority girl, but never would a mean word come out of Joe's mouth. It just wasn't his style. In fact, that was where his other half, Joe A, came in. Joe B was too nice of a guy, so he had to find someone to balance him